What's up, everybody? This is Diego.
This is Carlos, and real quick, I just want to extend a warm welcome to our guest today, Mr. Ramsey Robinson. Appreciate you coming through.
Appreciate y'all having me here, letting us pull up.
Yeah,
We appreciate that. Yeah.
A little bit of Kailewe. If it's okay with you, I wrote up a little bit of an introduction. Kind of just pulled it from like your biography page,
Please.
from your website. So Ramsey Robinson is running for governor of California in 2026 as a candidate for the Peace and Freedom Party, focusing on various important topics that include social justice, healthcare, and wealth redistribution. From his campaign website, RamseyForGov.com, Ramsey Robinson is a dedicated mental health social worker and revolutionary based in San Francisco, whose life's work has been rooted in the fight for collective liberation. With fierce commitment to justice, Ramsey has spent years organizing alongside oppressed communities to challenge systemic inequities, from poverty and racism to environmental destruction and state violence. Key member of the Party for Socialism and Liberation and the Peace and Freedom Party of California, is actively engaged with various activist and mentorship groups such as the Student Socialist Club and Central City Community Outreach. Some of his more notable campaign points include a government for the people, not the wealthy, housing is a human right, free universal health care, fully funded public schools, full rights for immigrants, pushing against capitalism, union jobs, ending the war on Black America, defending women's rights, full equality for LGBTQ people, and divesting from Israel.
Let's go.
Mr. Robinson, I appreciate you coming through, pulling up. We appreciate your participation in our podcast.
Happy to be here.
We're very excited to have you.
No, yeah, it's for us. I mean, we started the podcast right around COVID when everything shut down, and you know, me and Diego, since we couldn't be around other people, I was just with my family. We were neighbors in South. He lived in South Central, and I lived in Southeast LA. So he was a 10-minute drive. So I'll pull up to his house, and we're like, "Hey, dude, like we always have these conversations for like over an hour, 2 hours. We never run out of things to talk about." And we started it, and we were just like kind of getting through it, and to think that 6 years ago, we think we have someone running for governor of California. I could never imagine that. There's no way. We just started as something fun, And this is awesome. But as far as the introduction goes, I don't know if there's anything maybe you wanted to elaborate on, maybe something that I missed, or maybe something that I got incorrect. Is there anything?
Everything was correct, but I will clarify, not just pushing back against capitalism. Oh, we want that out of here.
Yeah.
Capitalism is the root, and thank you. It was great reiteration of, what I've been devoting my life to.
Yeah.
And, we broke down, the attacks of ICE on our immigrant communities, the war on our Black communities. And these are all connected issues. And I think it's so liberating for us to know that there is a source, And I spent so much of my life, like so many of us here in California, as a worker. If we are what we repeatedly do, I've been working more than anything else.
Yeah.
And of course, we're more than just one thing. And I do think same thing. Capitalism wants to say, oh, you're this and you're that and just do that. So I'm not just a worker like us. I mean, we all do other things, but the thing that I've done the most is work, and not just work, but this whole time be a worker in crisis.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, y'all know what it's like. Folks watching this, we know what it's like to be a worker.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with work. There's work that I was in the bar world for 7 years, worked with amazing folk. I could have been doing that right now. Right. But after, working full time, sometimes 2 jobs, giving my all, and you're left with nothing. Right. I didn't have enough money to start a family. Lost relationships because of that. Yeah. Had to choose between, paying for health care or rent.
Yeah. Right.
We shouldn't have to, choose between these two essentials of being a human being. This is something that I wish I would have gotten in the struggle way more. If I had learned that there is $7 billion in wage theft extracted from us workers, especially our immigrant communities, stolen from us. Woo! I would have started to feel that sensation take over my body even earlier, and that sensation is anger. And I think that's really key because, it's almost like a law, a physics law that oppression breeds resistance. We've seen it in our own lives and all through history, and so what got me to want to run, as governor is I want to resist. I want to
Yeah.
fight back against this. I want to fight back against not just for my own life, but California, half of the state is living paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know, two and a half, excuse me, 2.5 million of us don't have health insurance.
Yeah.
People, I'll just say, not to put any names on that like that, but people very close to me that don't have health insurance.
Yeah.
People about as close as you could get
Yeah.
sitting in a prison right now because of the war on our Black communities.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Children that I work with as a mental health clinician,
Yeah.
you know, in one of the last Black and brown neighborhoods, sitting about as far as we are right now, and like crying because they're afraid that their families are going to get pulled apart. Oh man, let's go and let's organize. And so, you know, really why I wanted to run is because not only did I start to feel that urge to push back, let's go, but I started to realize through organizing, which came into my life at the right time, right when I was about to pop.
Yeah.
As folks do, which leads to which I've seen in the people closest to me, drug use, illegal activities. Right before that happened, I started to meet organizations like the Peace and Freedom Party, like the Party for Peace and Freedom Party, like the Party of Socialism and Liberation.
Yeah.
Give you that outlet, right?
Woo!
Yeah.
And seeing that when we get together and harness that energy and harness that anger and harness that love, because it really is love that drives us to want to change these very unloving situations we find ourselves in. Life changer.
Yeah.
You know, and just to give a practical example, in San Francisco, where I live now, I was down here in SoCal for 20 years. Yeah. Moved up there the last 3. There's a trans brother, Benko Brown. Brother got murdered, got smoked for the crime of being hungry. And we said, we got to do something about this.
Yeah.
And so we were organizing hundreds of folks, not just within the organization. This is the power of bringing all kinds of people in to not only put pressure on the DA, Brooke Jenkins, to release the footage, to say, okay, hey, you're saying he's not, that he is guilty and he did this and this. Show us. Yeah. Right. Show us, and keep putting that pressure. We released the footage. Yeah. And it showed his innocence. And not only that, to point out, in a $4 trillion economy, there's no reason that any of us should go hungry and be put in a position where we have to commit a crime of poverty. Yeah. You know, and these are the kind of experiences I started to have. I mean, so many of us know October 7th, what went down. And, you know, in the Bay Area, again, really all over our state, all over our country, all over the world, but in the Bay Area where I'm at, being a part of directly influencing tens of thousands of folk coming down day after day and protesting, forever changing the narrative of Palestine. You know, and not only that, to point out that there's no reason why our tax money is going to fund a genocide. You know, and to see people's consciousness shift. And I was actually just reading the news the other day, and it was like news that is controlled by capitalist media. So we got to be careful about that. But it was really interesting. They had to say that there was another attack on someone that was, they had mentioned like settler colonialism in that area of the world. And to say it like that, outlets weren't talking like that. Before October 7th and before so many of us changed the narrative. So all that to say, starting to see that power that folk like us have, that your viewers right now have, and that we can affect change, completely changed my perspective on things.
And that was actually, you answered my question, the next one, which was, you know, as far as like just introducing yourself, the work that you do, you're a mental health social worker, and kind of what was your enough is enough moment? The idea where, you know what, like I've been going through all of this, been living my life and working with these students and working with these activists, seeing the people and everything that they're going through, what I'm going through personally with my friends and with my family. And you know what, I feel like it's time, you know, to run, right? Do you have like a pinpoint, like enough is enough type of moment where you're like, I think it's time for me to do this? Yeah.
There's a few.
Yeah.
You know, we know that capitalism never lets its foot off the gas. Never lifts its knee off our neck. Right. I think I was in a position, like I had mentioned, where I was wanting to fight back against being ground down as a worker, you know, living hand to mouth, living in spaces like, you know, we're in a beautiful house right now. Imagine living in a basement with no ventilation, you know, with no shower.
Yeah.
And this is what so many of us have to do because California is getting so unaffordable. That was an enough is enough moment for me, which motivated me to want to go back to school.
Yeah.
And then seeing how hard it is to do that.
Yeah.
I'll never forget, I called my daddy up and I was like, hey, Big Lou, I'm gonna do it, man. I'm going back to school. And he's like, I love you, bro, but I can't do it. I'm on pension. And, you know, I wanted to say, okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna get my college degree. I want to be a social worker, and I'm gonna be able to tell the kids I work with, hey, look, I did it.
Yeah.
You can do it too. We can improve our situation. And when I tell y'all, I cannot look them in the eye and say that because it is so hard to do that here in California and under this rigged system that we live.
Yeah.
So, but I did get through and get that degree. I got my master's. Okay, bet. Now I became a clinical social worker doing therapy, and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm so thankful for my job, and there we do know how to heal ourselves together. And enough is enough point. As much work that I can do with these kids in the room, just like this. And you know, you can't. Let me put it like this: the crises that they face inside the therapeutic space that I have with them are largely the majority are due to the crises outside caused by capitalism. And so to see, man, I could be doing this year after year after year. And sure, they'll get a little healing, but they're going right back out there where they're struggling to find employment. You know, where their families are getting torn apart. You know, where you know, I don't know if I mentioned I work in Bayview, Hunters Point. Shout out, and I say that because this is like one of the last black and brown neighborhoods in San Francisco, and man, this is where environmental racism reared its ugly head, and during World War II, you know, sent ships out. First of all, it's crazy that that's how black people were employed at that time. It's like the only jobs that were available for us is like being part of the military industrial complex, which is bad in itself. But then they're using these ships to test the bombs that they dropped on folk the same skin color as us in this room. And all that radioactive waste came down, and then the ships came back into Bayview, Hunters Point, and black people washed that down. It got in the soil. And man, I'm working with kids right now that have asthma rates 10 times higher than anywhere else in the city. You know, our sisters, our aunties, our moms that have breast cancer rates 5 times. I'm like, I didn't know about this, you know, until I moved up here. And I'm like, okay, we could do all the cognitive behavioral therapy and internal family systems stuff. And they're going back out there where they're still being affected. That was enough is enough. No, we got to run. And then, you know, realizing that again, that there's no excuse that we can't be healthy. There's no excuse that we can't fill the 600,000 to 1.6 million jobs that are available in California. Meanwhile, I got brothers just like this, like, you know, Ramsey, man, I don't know, man. I got kicked off the basketball team. High school stuff. What happened? What happened? Man, I missed practice. High school stuff. Tell me more. You know, therapy. You know, tell me more. You know, I was up till 4 a.m. Okay, why? Man, I'm thinking, how am I gonna get this bread when I graduate, man? The jobs that are available, we're not dumb. They know that if they go to Target or they get a secure, you know what they do? They get brown and black people like us managing other people's property. And I've seen it over and over again at my high school. Oh, so-and-so got a good job. What is it? Man, he's a security guard at so-and-so. Man, watching people's other stuff. And you know, so seeing the stress of them knowing that I don't know how I'm going to help. They're not even thinking of moving out their mama's house. They're thinking, how am I going to help the household? How am I mean, this is like actual things that I'm saying that I'm hearing like literally in the last 2 weeks. And it's like, oh, no. I'm starting to tell these brothers and sisters, and this is clinical. This is clinically relevant.
Right.
You know, where does this come from? Why do you think that's like that? Let's talk about that. Let's talk.
I work with high school students. I'm a high school counselor.
Shut up.
You know, and I think I resonate with some of the stuff that you're saying, because same thing. Like I'm talking, you know, some of these kids, and you know, the grades that they have and their stressors, and a lot of it leads back to, you start talking about their families, their communities, where they're growing up and what they're seeing and what they're dealing with. Yeah. And it's a lot similarly to like, how am I going to make money? And that's all they're thinking about, right? Like in their head, rather than being curious about the learning and their studies, right? They're not worried about that right now. They got other priorities. Their survival is almost turned on all the time, almost abnormally, and it's like, when are you going to like actually just be a kid? You're still a kid, right? When are you going to think about stuff like, kicking it with your friends, going out to eat something, no, they're thinking about, I need to make money and I need to start making money now. Right. Well, why? And you start asking the why, right? Like what's going on? And you start to kind of delve a little bit deeper. On that point, being a mental health social worker, I feel like sometimes comes with these misconceptions too, right? I feel like mental health, or at least social worker, sometimes gets, I don't know, people think you're going to take my kids away or something like that. You know what I mean? Or you're just a therapist. But I feel like there's a lot when it comes to the macro, the meso, and if you can kind of, my wife is a social worker.
Say that, shout out for real.
She's a clinical
social worker's comment.
I know, right? I just wondering if maybe you can go into what some of the misconceptions of being a social worker is, and how do you tackle that? Because the social worker is so many different things, right? It can lead into policy, things like legislation. So I don't know. Have you run into some of these, misconceptions and stuff?
It's interesting that you brought that up. That's so dope. So just a few weeks ago, I just had this instinct, this impulse to pull up the National Association of Social Workers core principles. Yeah. And there's 5 of them. Wow. Mm-hmm. And the second one on there is justice. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting, not to get all deep like this, but Socrates defined justice as sharing equally sharing. Mm-hmm. That is socialism. Yeah. The Peace and Freedom Party is an explicit socialist party. Meaning, I think Socrates said it very, very succinctly. It's when we share equally the resources that we have, And so I look at social work and I'm like, well, that fuses perfectly with being an organizer, with being a socialist. Yeah. So I really think that I have the best of both worlds, being a social worker and being a socialist and bringing this message out through our campaign. Yeah. But I like how you broke down macro and meso and let's talk about what you said, like this fear of, social workers are going to take my families away. Yeah. And it's like, and you realize though, if you're working on the macro, okay, well, you're trying to change the circumstances that lead to parents being put in positions where they have to take their children away. Right. Yeah. You talk about our platform point, which is these are not just talking points. When you talk about, again, there's just 194 billionaires in this state. 194 people. That's about as big as the student population at my high school that I work at. 194 people that are hoarding $1.2 trillion that working folks like us make, right? And meanwhile, everything that social workers are trying to solve could be solved if we just split up, share that stuff equally. Right. You think about how many families would be having to have interventions with social workers if they had guaranteed union jobs at $30 an hour, which we're talking about. If they had fully covered free and universal health care, which we're talking about. If they had, a dignified retirement where these families knew that, hey, they're always going to have a roof over their head. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I think it's a misperception that social workers are just in there to punish families. No, we're in here to change the system that's making it so hard for families to show the love and the support that we all got inside to do.
And that's something that definitely makes you stand out as a candidate. I think coming from like the social human services field and you having that background is like always keeping people at the forefront, right? Always keeping the we, and I feel that like that's something that we've seen has been absent within current politics, right? We've seen like the wealth being hoarded, right? So again, like that's what we're so excited to have you, because again, we've seen like the masses be ignored, right? Especially like all across the country, but even in California, and I love that you bring up that it's very important that we go back to the we. Education has been transformative in my life, right? And taking sociology classes, right? I would encourage everybody to take a sociology class because it does let you understand that things are systemic, right? Like if we have the money, why don't we invested in X, Y, and Z, affordable housing, healthcare for all, right? Well-paying jobs, you know. So that's why we're so excited to have you here, and it's also like a very pivotal point for like our podcast, you know, to have someone that's running for California governor, you know. And we do see that today, some people, we do see the term socialist still stigmatized, you know. So what's your response to the individuals that still have some hesitancy with that word? If you can elaborate on that.
Sure. I think that for those folks that have hesitancy, maybe it would help to clarify what socialism is. If I could take a moment.
Because I was talking to Diego on the phone not that long ago, and I was like, damn, bro, like if you were to ask me just define socialism or socialist, I feel like I can give maybe a definition. Sure. But, you know, there's always going to be some other perspective. Well, no, you're wrong. That's not what it really means. Yeah. You know, no, it means this, or no, it means that, you know. And we were curious. Like, I'm wondering from your perspective, who's running on this, how would you describe that? You know, what does it mean?
This. And, you know, to like what you're saying, I think socialism has been dragged in the mud through the 40s, 50s, 60s, really, because it's such a threat to those, you know. And first of all, I really like how you articulate when you said we talk about the we. And just in California, you know, the we is 40 million of us on this side, and the them is the 195 we're on that side. So we have so much power in our numbers. But I would really like to give at least with the Peace and Freedom Party, we define socialism as this. This is an economic and political system, socialism, that where folk like us, oppressed people, working class people, we have the economic and political power, and we use that economic and political power to plan the economy to make sure we have everything we need: food, clothes, shelter, healthcare, education, jobs, right? If you want to even like cinch it up a little more, it's where the workers that create all this wealth, we control the wealth. If you want to cinch it up a little more, it's people over profit. And I just want to contrast that really briefly, if I could, against the opposite, which is capitalism, which is what's keeping us in these situations that are draining us literally of our lives. Capitalism is a system that puts making money over everything. You know, that they're looking at a camera or a microphone not to communicate things to our fellow human beings in the human family. They're saying, how can we make this phone cheaper? You know, to make more of a profit on the mic. And that's actually kind of a trite example, but they're taking stuff like food, the most core element, water. I mean, let's put these fools on blast. Nestle, they've stolen 52 million gallons of water from drought-stricken areas of California. They steal it from us, and then they package up and they sell it back to us. That's capitalism. Capitalism is taking transportation and saying, ooh, this is a way not to connect our communities and help us go from point A to B. It's like, this is a way we can make money. And it's insatiable, and everything it touches, it desecrates, it perverts.
And I love that you share that, you know, just because we've all been like victims to capitalism to some extent, right? Like I think like black and brown individuals, sometimes we do come from like a collectivistic culture, right? So like me being from South Central and Carlos being from like Lingwood, which is in Southeast LA. Like when we were trying to buy homes, we got priced out of where our community was, where we grew up for like majority of our lives, you know. And that's something that the way that the lack of affordable homes, the lack of affordability or well-paying jobs in your community does push people to migrate, right? Especially me being the son of immigrants, right? Like my parents came from Mexico for the economic reasons, right? So we do see that destroys communities, you know. So I like that you mentioned that capitalism does do those things because it has been putting profit over people, and mention like some devices, right? Some devices are being made cheaper just so that next year you can replace them, right? So that they don't last, right? And we've seen that. We see it sometimes within the automobile industry, and it's plaguing every other industry just to keep the consumer coming back, keep them coming back, right? And also, we do see that capitalism does breed this hyper individualism of like it has to be the me, right? And I love that you mentioned some of the principles regarding socialism, especially like your background working with like one of the last remaining black and brown neighborhoods, right? I remember reading a book called The Sum of Us, What Racism Costs Everyone and How We Can Solve It by Heather McGhee. And in it, she talks about how like in the 1960s during the suburban era, like people would desegregation happened, there was white communities that would rather fill up their pools with cement than allow the now desegregated black individuals to come and utilize those pools, right? But then now that incurs a cost, right? So racism itself is costing the economy more, and that's what we're paying for, rather than accepting us as individuals, as a working class body, trying to help one another. And this idea of zero sum, where like, well, if they have it, that means I don't have it. Right. But we live in a society now where we're paying for bombs overseas, and Trump is coming online saying, well, we can't pay for childcare. Like, let the states handle that. And it's like, yo, like, so I do like that you're here, especially because across the U.S., we have seen a rise of like democratic socialists within the spectrum. Right. So again, like a huge shout out to you and the work that you've been doing. You get me? And again, one thing that stands out to me from you is coming from that social human services background, because you've also mentioned earlier regarding knowing people that fell victim to the systemic pressures to, well, I have to eat somehow, right? So I'm going to do what I'm going to do to find a way to get food, right? And I remember back then growing up in after school programs, and then being part of like a gang reduction youth development program. And there was a spoken word that I attended, and it was like, nothing stuffs a bullet like a job, right? But we see that these jobs are not in our communities, causing us to go outside of our communities. But then we don't have the public transportation infrastructure to take us there. And then we are dependent on a car, and that also comes with additional costs, right? So that's my little rant, but a lot of those things that it's the we, right? Like the socioeconomic system, putting it back to the people, which is again, like our principles that we believe in. My understanding of like the foundation of this country is we, the people, right? And the ideals that you mentioned within socialism, like it's a summary of that. Like we, the people, have the opportunity to take control of our lives, right? Through the collective.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, and thanks for mentioning that. It's crazy, like just having this conversation, it starts to jog all this stuff. Like, wait, damn, like that's awesome. Just as far as like your campaign, and you've mentioned everything from food insecurity to housing to things happening overseas. Is there like a couple points that come to mind to you, like a couple things that are particularly like, what I think I'm pretty passionate about these 2 points?
It's interesting because you brought up so many of those points right there. I'm like going, and my mind's like about to explode because we have like a very clear and succinct plan and actual mechanisms that are on the law books right now that the governor could do right now to address poverty, to address racism, to address the lack of housing, to address the fact that there's a misperception that there's not enough resources for us. So, it's like, I don't even know where to get in there with it, but I think I want to pick up on something you said, because I think it's so important with the racism.
Yeah.
And this is the fact that I think this is really key, because the people that we're talking about that we're up against, these 194 people, they use that tool of dividing us to keep what they got. Because we already talked about it. We got the numbers. So they're imagine that. Say you got 2 armies and you got one that's 194 people, and then you start to look over the hill and this wave of 40 mil are coming. Ooh, they better start thinking quick about what they're gonna do. Yeah. And what they try to do is they try to divide us. They divide us on the lines of race. Yeah. Right? They pay some of us more, some of us less. For every dollar that a white man makes, sister only makes 65 cents. A Latino woman only makes 40 cents for every dollar that a white worker makes. And this is not against a white worker. They're getting exploited too. Yeah. Which, if we see that we're both getting exploited, but so I think that the Peace and Freedom Party believes that we need to use the opposite tactic, which is to come together. Yeah. And that's why our platforms are so interconnected. Yeah. Because you can't talk about, like, you talk about housing, say you talk about homelessness, well, check it out. Medical debt is the number one reason for homelessness, right? So when we're saying with that tax on the billionaires, permanent tax on the billionaires, and that we'll fund universal health care, free, cover everything, mental health, gender affirming care, reproductive care, no copay. right? So if people have those, they're going to be less likely to become homeless because they're not going to fall into medical debt. Right now, 15 million Californians are drowning in medical debt.
Yeah.
And this is really important because these are for-profit companies that are preying off us being sick.
Yeah.
And I really think that's important because it shows that whether it's Democrat or Republican, they're still backing these billionaires that are owning these for-profit companies. Like, let's put them on blast. Blue Shield, you know, Anthem, right? Blue Cross. These are making tens of millions of dollars a year off us being sick.
Yeah.
So when we're saying we're going to erase medical debt, and I don't want to get too in the weeds, but there are things that actually, shout out to LA County, that they have done to help folks in LA County. 134,000 Angelinos just got their medical debt erased because the city council put up $5 million, bought up $189 million of medical debt, and then just erased that debt. We can upscale that too. But to be concise, you know, if people have that taken off, no more medical debt, free healthcare, well, then they're less prone to be homeless. Meanwhile, we're building 1.4 million homes to make sure everybody has a home. And just lastly, meanwhile, we're challenging these corporate landlords that are going into our communities, snatching up our properties, raising the price, evicting us, and pocketing the money. We're saying we want that back, man. And we have mechanisms like eminent domain, the Attorney General, when the Peace and Freedom Party is holding office, that we can start to do this.
And I like that you mentioned like the topic of medical debt because it's also so stressful, especially when you come from like a low income background. You know, like I've been on Medicaid, you get me, and I was blessed. When I was in graduate school, right, because I had to devote my time, but I was also blessed to have my parents where they were like, hey, like you can still continue living with us, you know, while you go to school. But I had to leave my full-time job to pursue graduate school, right? So I come from that privilege, and I want to recognize it. But there's other individuals who don't have that, right? And they're worried about like, oh, well, I'm not eligible for healthcare, X, Y, and Z. And the reality from low-income backgrounds where stress leads to diseases, it leads to high anxiety rates, it leads to multiple things, right? But having that ability to live under healthcare for all, where you're not going into debt to take care of your own well-being, is just revolutionary, right? But it's so hard.
Good word.
It's so crazy that for some people to grasp that concept, where I was like, oh, like I would like my neighbor to live a long life. Like, why is that a complicated thing, you know? But I like that you bring it up, you know?
Oh, for sure.
No, yeah. And just thinking about that too, because I started thinking, you were talking about how in Bayview, they some of the jobs were like cleaning those bombs and stuff, and they were getting exposed to all that, you know, radioactivity. My wife grew up in Maywood, and there was, I think it was a battery plant that closed down, and a lot of the dumping was just going into the soil. And she would recall being a little girl and just seeing scientists. She called them scientists, but they were like wearing full like suits, kind of sticking these big poles into the soil real deep. And then they would just leave, disappear. No one knew what was going on with the soil. Why are these people coming and just like testing the soil? And stress leading to heart disease and just different types of conditions. And I remember growing up, it was like this big thing where like you can't get sick, and if you do, well then we just figure it out at home. You know what I mean? And it's like, don't go because
they come into our communities. It's not just Bayview, Hunters Point, right? They're Richmond in the Bay Area. Oh my gosh, asthma rates are just higher than the national average there. We're going, and we've been campaigning in Central Valley. These agribusiness companies are pouring out sulfur into their water supplies. It goes on and on and on. Inland Empire. You know what I'm saying? Where the warehouse workers, first of all, they're only getting paid, I think it's like $29,000 a year. You know, and meanwhile, it has the highest traffic of trucks going through really anywhere in the country, and they're putting out millions of, I think it's about 50 million pounds of CO2. You know, diesel particulates, tons of them that are going into the schools, and they're building the schools right next to the warehouses. So we're really in a fight right here. A fight of life and death.
Because it's all interconnected, right? Like I didn't know till I was an adult that even South LA had some oil refineries that were shut down, right? And even when learning about like the freeways in LA, you find out that they're all crazy because in the wealthier neighborhoods, they were like, no, you're not going to pass by my zone, right? So then
the reroutes and
they created some crazy reroutes that create inefficiency. you know, but also how the system keeps you like, I need to work 1 or 2 jobs to pay rent, to support a family, to raise a family. And then it also pulls you away from like engaging in that civic engagement, right? Because like $1, like a day without work is also a day closer to being evicted, a day closer to not having food on the table, you know? So again, I'm very glad that the Peace and Freedom Party and you are pushing these principles of like the we holding the economic and political power for the people.
Yeah.
Man, that really makes me think about, just because my parents are also immigrants my mom's from Guatemala and my dad's from Mexico. And right now that you're mentioning that, like, we always talk about how our parents came from like like just a survival mode type of, you know, I guess mindset. But then they come here to the US and it's like a different type of survival mode. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, because it's like debt, it's money, it's, you know, capitalism, not getting sick, and then figuring out and maneuvering all these systems, which just goes back to like social work. Like, it's teaching people how to maneuver these different types of systems, and on the back end, learning how to advocate, right, for, you know, the right, the people.
There's so much there, and you know, we just got back from goodness, we were in Oxnard.
Oh, right.
And we did a teach-in on the connection between, I'm saying this because you're bringing this up, of U.S. imperialism and immigration.
Yeah.
And just long story short, Colombia, El Salvador, Honduras, these are places where the U.S. that poisons us here, that exploits us here, the U.S. goes into these countries, completely disrupts the fabric of society, their economic well-being, their physical well-being. And then we have immigration that they come here, and then they're doubly exploited here. And so I also just wanted to say too, because we're talking a lot about the problems, but this, this is, I can even feel the energy in the room, you know what I'm saying? Like, cause we're like, oh yeah, and this and this and this. And to say that this is what's so exciting about the Peace and Freedom Party, because you know, the billionaires, they have their 2 parties. We know what's up with the Republicans.
Yeah.
We can talk about the Democrats now because they've had the supermajority in the House and the Senate now for decades. And this is what, is it easier to get a job or is it harder? Is it easier to buy a house or is it harder to buy a house? Has the money going to war stopped since the Democrats are in power, or does it keep going? It's kind of rhetorical questions, man. Like you had mentioned before, it's $1 billion a day that's going to Iran. It can meet our needs now. But all that to say, they got their 2 parties. Now we got ours. Working people like us, oppressed people like us, we got our party, and it's the Peace and Freedom Party. And we've had ballot status since 1967, and we've been anti-war from the jump. You know, and we've. The party was formed by connecting struggles, because the party would not have been born if they didn't link up with the Black Panther Party, who was a socialist organization, who also demanded that the end to police terror in our communities, who also demanded that we have guaranteed jobs, good jobs, and housing, who also exposed that, you know, so many of us have heard about the breakfast program that the Black Panthers
part
did.
of the 13 points. Or
and you know, well, they were feeding kids, and it wasn't just mutual aid. It was really, it was so political and powerful because it was showing, oh wow, look it, we're feeding y'all, but the government, who should be feeding us with a $4 trillion economy, they're not. So it's really exposing these Democrats and the Republicans. Well, really, California has just been Democrats, that they're completely insufficient. But I say that all to say that we have our own party now, and when we start to organize in the millions, that's when those billionaires get scared, and that's why this campaign, I think, is really exciting. You know, because it's hope, but not in an empty phrase like politicians say. It's hope based on the fact that we are in a state that has so much wealth that we create, and all that wealth can be used to knock out all of our needs. But by saying knock out, I mean solve the problems. What we need.
Because there is a lot of wealth that you know, it's being spent on a bomb right now.
I know. It makes you wonder too, because when you start to see that organization, you almost can tell that the billionaires are getting nervous. You know what I mean? Like, oh wait.
You know they do.
And
then when we start linking up with we were in Oxnard too. I was invited to a carne asada. I never know what that was. They're like, oh, bro, it's a cookout. I'm like, okay. And I was chopping up with the birthday. He's not a boy, turning 27, shout out. And he was saying, you know, he's Mexican brother. And we know what it is. This is his birthday. He opened his house to us. We rolled in there. and there's love, and he's saying, man, you know how black and brown people get down.
Mm-hmm.
Like we know what's up. We're so connected.
Yeah.
And it's just such an example of that power of us linking up. Because like you said, all throughout history, when we come together, that's when these billionaires get scared. And that's what we're doing, is we're uniting our struggles to this campaign. It's a really beautiful thing too.
That's when you notice throughout history, like that's when real change starts to happen. You know, and then we start to get like all these different laws and legislation. Like, oh, it changed. Why? And you look back and historically, well, this happened. Like,
say that, and that's why. And if I may, and that's such an important point. Yeah. Because yes, please, register Peace and Freedom Party for your listeners, for y'all. It's showing that we're tired of this rigged system that both the Democrats and the Republicans are part of. Yes, bubble in Ramsey Robinson for governor, and all. We're running on a slate. Frank Lara for public instructor, public education. Do all that. Megan Adams, state controller. Where does the money go? She lives down the street from me, by the way. Yeah. And this is say that. Yeah. And this is really about continuing this mass movement that, like you're alluding to, that has always been going on. And that's really what we need, because you nailed it. When you look at the biggest changes that have affected our well-being in a positive way, it hasn't been through the ballot box. Right. It's been through people coming together, getting out in the streets. Yeah. And that's what the Peace and Freedom Party is doing, as well as flexing our political power in the ballot box. We're saying, come join us, come volunteer, come spread this message, come out when there's an anti-war demo saying, the $1 billion are going to Iran today, another, and that's not April Fool's, you know what I'm saying? You would think that, right? Hey, by the way, did you know that $1 billion a day are going to Iran? Oh, April Fools? No, man. Yeah, that happened today, yesterday, and, unfortunately, probably tomorrow. Yeah. But all that to say, when we get together and exert that pressure, that's when we really get these changes we've seen.
And I like that you highlight the role that the U.S. has played through imperialism, right? Where, especially like being Latino from Mexican parents here in the U.S., like it's going to be more than one country from Latin America that has experienced U.S. imperialism, and that destabilization in that country has led to the increased immigration rates here in the U.S., right? And we see that in the sense of like, we have people that are going to complain about immigration X, Y, and Z, but it's like, well, you don't see what the U.S. is actually doing in these respective countries, and they're using your tax dollars to do this, right? And the other thing too is that like, even now, like you have people that will quote unquote flee the U.S. for economic refugees to go to like Mexico, and they call themselves what are they called? Expats. They call themselves expats, right? And it's like, it's crazy how they come up with this new term, but if the person that was coming to the U.S. was black and brown, oh no, you're an immigrant. But me with economic privilege and white skin going to Mexico, I'm an expat. I'm not an immigrant. I'm an expat. And it still perpetuates this idea that the U.S. itself, like I feel like it brings up the conversation that we need to acknowledge, like the U.S. hegemony within the world, right, and how it has dominated other countries to extracting the resources, or whether it's trying to gain regional control in certain areas, and how that has led to immigration. So for any of our Latino listeners, like ask your parents, like if you come from immigrant parents, ask them like, well, what made you want to come here, right? And whether it's El Salvador, Guatemala, Nicaragua, those are just 3 countries off the top of my head that the U.S. has intervened in their own.
Thank you. See, we being known, and thank you for saying that. I'd like to say too, just to add to it, there's 1.8 million undocumented workers in California. And those brothers and sisters create an $8.5 billion in tax revenue. And then they don't let them access the money that And so that's one of our I mean, all of our platform points, none are sacrificed. They all should be really like not like this, but like this. But what we're saying, we will give access when we're saying that through that permanent tax on the billionaires. There's 194 billionaires that have more wealth than the poorest 27 million of us. When we're saying that we tax them, get them permanent tax and get that resources, and we provide housing, healthcare, and education, that is for all of us. That is for our immigrant, documented or not, siblings who contribute so much to California. they're getting access to that too. And you know, we're not playing around, man. We're saying that we will ban any local and state agency from colluding with ICE.
Okay.
You know, and we will prosecute and decertify any officer that does that, because right now we're supposed to be a sanctuary state. I believe it's AB 34. You know, but we have state and local agencies, man, traitors, man, giving data to, and we're gonna decertify them.
Yeah, they're picking up people here every day.
What?
And the other thing too is like coming from like the education background, like you see how important it is for a student to be present, right? But when the student's parent is deported, or when the student himself is risking deportation, like, and they're not going to school, you get me? Like that itself does have long-term consequences, right? So I guess regarding these policies that you're very passionate about and resonate with a lot of us, you get me? And I hope they resonate with a lot of our listeners. What do you say to the people that have this idea or this thought that like, oh, voting third party is a wasted vote?
Sure. Listen, those folks that are worried about splitting the vote, you know, it's the Democrats that are splitting the vote.
Say it.
You know, if they're so concerned about the Republicans getting in office, then there's 8 of them. Step on down. We're a third party. We're a socialist party, and to us, it's 2 things. For us, it's more democratic to have different voices in there than not. Yeah, you know, and if I may, again, we have all the data that we need. You know, we've seen decade after decade now the Democrats that have the supermajority in the House and the Senate, as we've been talking about, that man, they're making life almost unbearable here in California. We don't have time to wait for it to swing back even on a national level. I mean, personally, my daddy's black. You know, black households typically vote Democrat, you know, and I understand why, you know, because the Democrats were associated with being working class for black people. Man, when I'm in my 40s, when I was coming up and Clinton was in president, and this dude passed a crime bill that was written by Biden that disproportionately put black and brown people, us that look like us, in prison. And Biden wrote that. Clinton slashed welfare. He fired 500,000 federal workers. On and on and on. Obama, again, nothing on well-intentioned politicians, but their party is so tied and embedded with the billionaires. I mean, they forced Obama's hand to go to war with Libya and kill black and brown people. Obama's administration deported more immigrants than Trump did during Trump's first term. We need to say this, and I'm not trying to say to put anyone personally on blast, but just as an example that we've seen that this 2-party system is rigged and it doesn't help us. And I just for those people to know that there's a party out there now, it's an independent party. We're not taking any money from AIPAC, no money from the billionaires, and that allows us to really meet our human needs. You know, and so we got to keep on the ballot, and we're not going to step off.
And I love that you say that, right? Because you got to call it out for what it is, whether it's left or right? Whether it's Republican or Democrat. And it makes me think that, like, when I was growing up in the 08 recession, and I saw like so many people lose their homes, right? Now as an adult, I'm like, wait, like, let me investigate further and see what happened. And then you had the current administration at the time, right? The Obama administration, like, they had the bank bailout, right? You gave the banks the money rather than the American homeowner to pay off their mortgage. And now you had the banks who were responsible for that economic crisis manage this money, and the American worker still lost their home, right? So rather than providing the American worker the money to pay off their mortgage, hence the bank would now get their money, like and that destroyed families. That caused people to leave homes that they grew up, that they were there for generations, you know? So again, like a huge shout out to you and your party for calling it for what it is, right? Whether it's here in California and things haven't been done, you know, I think it's important to just let the people know.
You just gave me some more ammo right there.
Oh,
I forgot about that. And I was working in 2008, and I remember how hard it was. And thank you for saying that. And again, we're building today. You know, and again, it just shows us that we know what's up. We're not dumb. You know, we're so strong. We so know what we need. We just haven't had a political party that, well, we have had the Peace and Freedom Party with ballot status, but, you know, now we're growing the awareness that we really do have this. And, man, those days were tough, man. I feel like I got some years on y'all. And I was bartending in 2008 when that happened. Yeah. And, man, it was so tough to get a job, and the bosses knew it. And you know, they were treating us like, you know what, I don't even have to say it, you know, and because they knew that if we were going to say, hey, this is crazy that you're, hey, Rams, you know, they call you by your nickname. I don't know who you are. Hey, Rams, can you just take this extra shift? Or, hey, bro, I just worked 8 hours. Can you do this? Because, you know, if you say no, they would even say it. And we got folk lining up around the block. But, and also I just want to highlight something you said too, that yes, this is not about Democrat or Republican. It is about the billionaires versus working folk, oppressed folk like us. And that is why, again, it really comes back to this movement that we need, you know, to link up together to put this pressure on. And I really do want to, this isn't a plug, I really do want to encourage folk to go to ramseyforgov.com and sign up to volunteer. We're happy to say it's the first, in March, we knocked on 10,000 doors. The numbers just came out. We knocked on 10,000 doors. You know, and whew, so glad I remembered to say this, that y'all can look it up. The Peace and Freedom Party is the fastest growing party in California. So I think this show, and you know, some other political parties, they're going down. Because it shows that we're done, man. We're done with these fools.
So for those interested, you can update your voter status online.
Yes.
Right. And whatever party you're registered with. And just a quick question to clarify. Do you need to be registered for the Peace and Freedom Party to vote for you for this gubernatorial candidate?
On the one hand, you do not.
Okay.
If you are like 40 million of us in California busy raising our kids, raising other people's kids, you know what I'm saying? Going to work, and you just, oh man, you know how it is. You're like, I want to do that. And June 2nd comes around. Don't even trip. You do not have to be registered Peace and Freedom Party to bubble in. Alex Stack for Lieutenant Governor, Frank Lauer for Superintendent of Public Instruction, Lalo Vargas for Insurance Commissioner, Megan Adams for Controller, you know what I'm saying, myself for Governor. Go ahead and you can bubble us in. And on the other hand, please make the time to do that. And you can actually just register, because we have a link if you want to go to ramseyforgov.com and, you know, read all the stuff that we're chopping up about, although y'all are really adding some extra bonus goodies in there that we can share. But you know, you can that's a one-stop shop for all this, and you can register Peace and Freedom Party. And it is important because this is how we show. So we cannot be doing the same thing, man.
And that's also where people can sign up to volunteer, right?
Yes,
on your website, volunteer.
Thank you. And we're going all up and down and sharing this message, because this is something. It's not like we came up with this campaign points and then we're transposing it on folk. This is what the people are demanding. What we're demanding. So we get to play an active role in this, build up the party, spread this movement, get out there in the streets. I mean, y'all, if you're following on social media, man, we're not, man, y'all know on Monday, I'll be up at 5:30 going back to work. And if there's another anti-war demo against Iran, I'll be there protesting too. You know, this is, and if I could share, I've been really wanting to share this for a minute, and I haven't shared this yet.
Exclusive.
No, for real though. For real. I really have been wanting to
please
share
do.
This because, you know, for our platform point, end the war on our black communities, on Black America. Again, this is not just some platform point. And, you know, we're saying very briefly, cash reparations for all black folk, centuries of stolen labor, political power. You know, we will have control, community control over the police, right? And for Black History Month in the Bay, shout out to the East Bay, man. They had this thing they have every year called Black Joy Parade. And I've only been up in the Bay for 3 years now, coming from LA, big city of dreams. And came up to the Bay, didn't hear about it. And man, when I rolled up there, and me and one of my campaign managers rolled up, and by 4:00 there were thousands of black people in the street, man. And we got up on this little like concrete block, and we were eating our lunch. It had been a long day, and man, the whole street was packed with, like, streets were packed with black people. And I'm like, man, this is what we need to do. Is like when they are dropping more bombs on Iran, when they're starving Cuba, when they're kidnapping the president of Venezuela and stealing their oil, we got to come out and do that. And goes the other way too.
Yeah.
When hopefully it doesn't happen again, although the sister that I was just talking to actually yesterday was saying another brother got smoked in the Bay. Actually, I think it was down here. We need to say his name, part of that I don't remember. But when that happens, then our Latino brothers and sisters, Asian brothers and sisters have to come out. But I'm thinking, man, if we can mobilize like that, like again, and can you imagine like the thousands of black folks were at the Black Joy Parade, and then the thousands of our immigrant brothers and sisters, and the thousands of us that are anti-war, and we roll up at City Hall together. Oh man, that's when we start rolling, and it just excites me. And I mean, I think that we have a lot of organizing to do, but I think that's the main goal, you know. But I want to be very clear too. Got to support each other too. You know, I talk to a lot of brothers and sisters like cool with that. We know the connections, but you know, other people have to show face for us too. But that's why we're not gonna let these fools divide us. We're gonna come together like that carne asada.
I know, right?
And fight together and party together.
And I love that you say that, you know, because like U.S. history has taught me that Black Americans have been the template for collective organizing.
Y'all are come on, man! Shout out to y'all.
The books,
you know,
the political leaders and the activists. Yeah, you guys, the blueprint. Right?
You know, and again, like I'm glad that you highlighted as well, and to our listeners, you know, like even today, like with the 14th Amendment being challenged, right? Like if it wasn't for like a black brothers and sisters throughout history, like we wouldn't have had that privilege to have been born with that U.S. citizenship.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So definitely. Show your solidarity and tune out and go out and show support, you know, and that allows us to segue into if you were elected governor, what are some one or two immediate policies that you would want to pursue?
We got to get the policy that are getting these 194 billionaires and you know, and because it's going to fund everything. And it's so interesting. Like I sincerely but I love asking folk when we're campaigning, like what if you were governor tomorrow, like what would you do? You know, and in such a positive way, it's everything that the campaign is talking about. It's usually housing, jobs, healthcare come up, and but you know, we'll get just recently like few people said tax those billionaires, and I'm like, that's actually really dope that you're saying that first, because that's that main mechanism. Because it's those 194 people that are sitting on $1 trillion. My boy, shout out to my boy Jeremiah. He told me that it would take 130,000 years to count to $1 trillion, and that's without eating or sleeping. So, because you know, I'm a social worker, man. The number, I ain't a number cruncher. So sometimes like a number like that is hard for my brain to wrap around. But just to say how much money that's there. So I as governor, no, we got to get this popping. That we take this permanent tax, which by the way, eventually we don't want any billionaires, because you can't get that rich without making people poor. But right now, a permanent tax, they're gonna be fine. The great grandkids are still not gonna be able. But that will allow us to fund all of this, which to me, it's like someone who has struggled with housing insecurity. Like I said, these are not talking points, man. I was in there for years, places where it's like, man, hey, do you mind if I come by and use a shower? And you know how folk do. Oh, man, come through. But it's, man. So I think for me, taxing that, and then all that trickles down. Housing, healthcare, education. If it's okay, I do want to mention something, because I think this is really important for folk to know, is that we're not talking about things that we have to even create. There are mechanisms that our state has constitutional and legislative authority to make changes now. And you brought up housing, so I just want to really try to succinctly break down that Gavin Newsom during COVID, when y'all talking about COVID, when we started chopping up more heavy and start this, you know, he used the California Emergency Services Act, which says when there is a state emergency, which of course in COVID there was, that you can like stop evictions, that you can freeze the rents. Man, he stopped evictions, great, but he took it back and he didn't freeze the rents. And when we have over 1 million of us that are behind on rent, tens of thousands of us that are facing eviction, we are in a housing crisis. And so as governor, I can invoke that California Services Act, and we can freeze the rents. Imagine that, like, no more than 20% of your paycheck goes to your landlord. We can do that today. Newsom could do that today if he wanted. He didn't do it. So not to get too much in the weeds, but there's mechanisms that are on the books right now that we could do to tomorrow change. And I think it also just shows the inability or lack of political will or their servanthood. I'm gonna say it to the billionaires that these Democrats don't do what they could do right now. And just as a last example, Gavin Newsom ran on universal health care. That was his platform point. He could have done it. We got the Cal Care Act that is sitting on it over and over, sitting on his desk right now that we could have had free universal health care right now. And he didn't do it, man. And so, you cannot remodel a home that was built on the foundation to keep you out. You have to build your own house. And that house for us is the Peace and Freedom Party.
How long has it been up? How long has it been governor? Gavin Newsom.
He's in his last term now, so he's had 2 or 3 terms to do all this. Yeah, we see what California is.
Yeah, man. Thanks so much. Yeah, we really appreciate it. Just maybe one last thing. Honestly, I feel like we can talk for I'm like forever. I'm like getting bullet points in my head, and I'm like, you know what? Like, we can talk for forever. But it just goes to show that we still got many more months till we start the voting process and all that stuff. Well, what's that look like?
June 2nd is the primary.
June 2nd, okay.
So for sure, come out and register, and like we said, you don't have to be registered, but vote, and then let's carry this on. And I'll say, for folks, it kind of ties into the question you're asking about, like, it's like a cousin question to about like, oh, what about splitting the vote or whatever? Like for folk who ask, can we win? Well, let me just break it down like this. The last gubernatorial election, unfortunately in California, we have the top 2, right? So which is very undemocratic, where only the top 2 vote getters go on to the general election.
It's not like ranked choice, right?
Right, it's not ranked choice, And the second vote getter last election cycle got about 1.6 million votes. We're saying that when 15 million Californians are drowning in medical debt, and if we could get enough volunteers and get our message out, and me going up and down the state and say, we will eliminate medical debt, do you think we can get some of those 15 million votes? Say we get 1 million of those votes. We're getting close. When a million of us are behind on rent, like we just said, and we say we will freeze the rents, we will halt eviction, there's real ways we can do it. Do you think we can get some of those votes? You think we can? When childcare,
you just read my mind.
When childcare costs $22,000 a year, and we're saying that childcare and education from cradle to college is going to be free. Do you think we can get more voters that way to register and vote Peace and Freedom? We do. This is possible, and the Peace and Freedom Peace and Freedom Party is the only party that has real solutions. I mean, it's not even like the Democrats are offering the solutions and they don't do them. They're not even offering them. So the time is right, man. We're not going back. We're building the party up. We ain't going anywhere. After June 2nd or after November or after I have a term in office, I ain't going anywhere. I'm always going to be. When I say I am the people, it's like, oh yeah, the people. No. It's fused. I'm going to be organizing. I hope to the day that I die to change this situation for us, not just here in California, but for all of us working folk.
And just to people, real quick, just touch on that point on childcare. Just recently, my wife and I, we both have master's degrees, and worked hard to get them. And recently, we've had to get childcare. We used to have babysitting with grandma and stuff like that, but we're in a situation right now where we had to I think it's time to transition over and get childcare. That 24,000 is not too far off, a year. It's close, it's close. And so, and we're dual income. So if we were to become a single, if something were to happen, I don't know, man, that'd be tough,
I don't want to interrupt.
No, and kind of just to add to the point, like the childcare, like my fiance and I, again, we also have our master's degrees, but the economy is different now, right? And we're talking about having children, and it's just also I have to do a lot of unlearning on my part because I come from a family of 6 boys, right? And we grew up low income and things like that. So it's I feel like the cost of having a kid right now and then daycare and all that is it just seems something that would send a shock to our current financial situation. So it's just man, you work hard to be able to provide for yourself and then your loved one, and then when you want to build a family, you're now in this position of oh damn, I still don't think I'm good enough. You know, I still don't think I have the means to provide adequate education, adequate healthcare, right? Because data shows, and this is something that caused me to postpone having children, is that when you're born low income, right, your children have a higher rate of having low educational attainment, having higher risk of health issues and things like that, having higher illiteracy rates and things like that, right? So learning all those things was like, oh damn, like if I can delay having kids to where I'm in a better position to give them a better starting point, like I'm gonna do that, right? But with the current shock in the economy and where we are now, it's kind of just like, are we even there yet?
Yeah,
you know. So
I feel like there's that anxiety. Sorry.
Oh no, I just had
the
to
anxiety.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, and my brother told me this years ago. We didn't fail capitalism. Capitalism failed us, and I think this is really important because, you know, this is by design. Again, it's a rigged system. You know, you think about, it's by design that childcare is so expensive because the ultra wealthy. And again, no one's getting touched with our platform against just those 194 billion. But the ultra wealthy, man, they can send their kid. Childcare is nothing to them. And so what? Boop, the kids are up here. You know, college, Ivy League, whatever. And you know, a couple of years ago, how they're just paying these fools to get in. Boop, they're up here. You know, and we're back here, and that's what they want. They want us back here because it keeps the status quo the way it is. And we're saying, no, man, we're done with the status quo. So I appreciate you saying that personally, man. We're not the problem. It's the system that's the problem, and we're here to challenge that system.
So quick rapid fire to kind of summarize, right? Affordable housing.
Yeah.
No, affordable housing.
No, like rapid fire.
Childcare.
Yeah, for you.
Affordable housing. We can do that. There are mechanisms in place. We will direct the governor's office of research and planning to work with EDD. Pardon, this is for jobs. You know, we get the jobs, we get the housing. Pardon. There's 187,000 homeless people in California. There's 1.2 million empty homes. We can put them all in there.
Childcare.
$22,000 a year. Permanent tax on the billionaires. Done. Families got $22,000 back in their pocket.
Job retraining and workforce development.
That will be again one of these things where we already have these systems. The governor's office of research and planning linked up with EDD, employment department, and create employment hubs in all the counties. There's 600,000 to 1.6 million jobs they don't tell us that could be filled in California. We're gonna fill them.
Okay. I think just immigration, ICE presence,
man, banning, like I said, banning any state or local agency, including hospitals and schools, from colluding with ICE, decertifying any officer that is found colluding with ICE. Full access to our documented or undocumented siblings to get housing, healthcare, education, and the governor using the power that he has to tell if they try to deploy the National Guard anywhere in our state, stand down and go home. Newsom can't do it, didn't do it, I will do it.
And then similar to that one, we saw that in Texas, they repealed undocumented students getting in-state tuition in universities and colleges. Would you protect that in California?
What? Everything in our power to protect our immigrant, and they're all connected, our immigrant siblings. And California education will be free from cradle all the way through college for everyone. And I have to sneak in a little one in here too. The UC system, I want to put them on blast. They have $32 billion invested in genocide. They have billions of dollars invested in, like Elbit, the company that drops the bombs on innocent Palestinian, Caterpillar that knocks down the homes. We're going to divest from Israel, divest from war, and invest in our state. And I say specifically because if you do the math, $32 billion that we'll divest from Israel, the Israeli apartheid state, could fully fund 9 years full tuition for UC students. Everybody, undocumented or not, is getting education if they want it.
That sounds great.
Thanks
so much. You know, we appreciate you. I know we threw a little bit of curveball rapid fire, but hey, man, like quickly, you know, is there anything just to wrap it up? Anyone you want to give a shout out to? Someone like that comes to mind, like, you know what, they've been, through it thick and thin with me. Maybe a couple people, a few people, just someone that comes to mind, like, you know what, man, they've been my
You know what? For first instinct, I want to shout out y'all, and I'm not just saying that it's something you come on a podcast and say that. Man, I started to feel like emotional when y'all were talking about some things, man. And I do want to do this too, and I haven't done this. Shout out to all the people that I have worked with, now, and all the years that I've been a worker, like we're saying, in crisis, man. And I won't say their names, but folks who have had to thug it out in this system, and we've depended on each other, relied on each other. We've have to walk ourselves off the bridge of doing things just to take a breather, and try to, and all the things that we've been offered to do. I was in the bar world, and you could probably use your imagination of all the opportunities you have. Shout out to all the workers out there in California that even with these great challenges are still fighting back. Shout out to, man, so many people I want to name by name, but fam, you gotta keep, what I'm saying, but that are going through it, been through it, and man, shout out to the 40 million of us on our side, that are gonna keep massing up and unifying and fusing together to challenge these 190 fools on that side, that we're coming back for what's ours.
No, I appreciate it. Just the last thing, you got some events. I wrote them down real quick. It looks like you're going to be in the Valley, San Fernando Valley, April 3rd, a couple days from now, for a town hall.
Yeah, that should be cool.
And then you got a meet and greet in San Diego, April 10th, and it looks like also the 12th. Right? So you're making your rounds down here in SoCal, huh?
I love it, man.
You're also going to be in LA, right?
Yeah, I don't know exactly when we're going to be in LA. We were in Compton last night. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Oh, it was last night? Okay,
we
it probably passed already.
Last night, and I know we got to wrap it up for y'all. But, oh, man, this sister doing big things. Shout out to Victoria, man. Has a wellness center down in Compton, bringing folks together. But no, check it. And to see all this, you can follow us on social media. We're going to post all the places we are. You can go to ramseyforgov.com, and please come on out and I'll be there,
Oh, yeah, that's awesome. You know what? Just out of curiosity, this is just my own curiosity, if you don't mind. Long form content, I feel like I haven't seen too much. I was trying to Google, YouTube, your name and stuff. I'm looking for these long interviews and stuff. Is this something that you're looking to do a little bit more? Or?
We got one in the can. Well, this right here, and which is a burner.
Hey, let them know.
So we got it right here. But no, we got some interviews in the can that are long form coming out. Look out for those. I'm very excited. Just all of us to share this as well.
Well, that's awesome. Really appreciate you coming through, taking some time out of your busy schedule, just to kind of give us a little bit about what's been going on with your campaign. So thanks so much, Ramsey Robinson. Really appreciate it.
Glad
okay.
we pulled up.
Thank you. Hey, that's what's up.
So you heard it all, folks. June 2nd, make sure you turn out to the ballots and vote. You heard it today from Ramsey Robinson. Again, you can find more information on his website, Ramsey for Gov.
Number 4.
Yeah. Say that. Thank you, brother. Ramsey, the number 4, Ramsey4gov.com.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.